So, hello everyone. This is the fourth episode in 2026 of the BBCC podcast video series, a new format that we are trying out. And welcome in the studio, Reni, Levi, Jason, and Christoph. And our episode today will be about Ethiopia and the coffee culture in Ethiopia. And what shall we know about the country? This is a place, a country in Africa. Basically, most of the people there lives from agricultural activities, and the country is one of the rare countries in Africa that hasn't been colonized for a long period of time. That's why it's a little bit of different nature than the other ones, and the coffee there is a little bit different than the Southern American coffees because it's less standardized and a little bit of more variety comes into picture. Plus, geographically, it's a different place because everything is on a highland, so there is no high mountains, but everything is on a highland, and that's by nature is different than what we experience in South America. But let's talk about how these two individuals got there and what made them there, what made them brave enough to travel to Ethiopia, and how have they organized. And please introduce yourself because we know you're coffee enthusiasts, but maybe a little bit more. So the stage is yours.
So I'm Reni. I've been working as a barista for 3 years now, more than 3 years. And I started the Cupping Club Hungary 3 years ago, also more than 3 years ago. And this original idea came from the urge to share the knowledge and the experience about coffee. And this Ethiopian trip for me is about sharing the knowledge and the experience about coffee as well, but at a different level and in a different environment. So I am lucky enough to know András Zevda, who is a green coffee exporter and who makes trips to Ethiopia in each and every years. And now I had the chance to join him, and it was brilliant for me in sensory experience and also in the terms of getting know about the different phases of producing coffee. So yeah, that's about me.
And my name is Levante, and I'm working as a coffee interpreter, maybe. And I work with, and I am the right hand with Andres.
Alrighty. So, if we go back to the original topic, I mean, you mentioned something there, Lenny, which is, caught my eye or my ear, basically. It's the copying club. What that is, and why you run that, and what's people benefiting from it, or like, what's is it a community where you get together and cop coffees, or what's that about?
It's a growing community actually. We are now 900 members, almost 900 members. Everyone can find us on Facebook. It's a completely free of charge group. You can, or anyone can join our events in each and every month. I'm really proud of it that we didn't have any month that we didn't have an event. So for 3 years we've been through more than 600 different coffees. So it's very exciting. The idea originated from the fact that if you have coffee at home, you don't have the chance to taste so much coffees. So you need some other people who can share their coffees with you. And in this way, you have the chance to taste more than one or more than two different types of coffees. You have the chance to taste at the same time 6 or 10 different coffees. So that was the origin idea. We started the cupping sessions with 6 different coffees. And now, tomorrow, we will have the cupping session from the Ethiopian trip with 20 different coffees from the newest harvest. So it's very interesting.
How many people are going to be there tomorrow, if you know?
I don't know. If I'm not mistaken, I think that we will be around 30, 40 persons in a relatively small room.
Where is that room? How did you find a place to host this program for you?
For 1 year, we were at a coffee shop in the inner city. And after the first year, we switched to another coffee shop, which has an individual room with another institute. And in this individual room, we have the um, best chance to organize these events. So we are a bit separated from the coffee shop environment.
Gazan and I have been once to something similar. It was not the copying club, but it was something similar, and I know it's a good environment. Probably this could be a story for a next time when we can go there and practically create some shooting when the weather will be a little bit better. Because I'm not gonna lie, in Hungary right now it's like super cold and icy. So when the weather gets a little bit better, maybe we can go there and experience the feeling of the copying club. Um, so back to the original topic, Ethiopia. How did you get there? I mean, who organized the trip, and what made you there? I mean, what's the reason why now? You know, South America, maybe.
Yeah, so the Andreas is the organizer of this trip. He come back every year and comes with her partners or families, and so yeah, this year we were we gone with her with him, and yeah, he is the original organizer. He's a half Ethiopian, half Hungarian person. Yeah, and he comes and visited her partners and washing stations.
Ah, gotcha. So he has a business there, and basically his family is in Hungary, and then the other part of the family is in Ethiopia. Plus, the business partners are there. So every year he just goes there for like regular.
Was he born here in Hungary or in Ethiopia? In Ethiopia.
In Spain, actually.
Yeah, he lives in Spain, and the Hungarian task is which is to maintain the company is in Hungary. So I work in Hungary. So I am her right hand in Hungary here.
Can you tell us what it feels like to arrive to Ethiopia? Because, as a Western European, it's a bit hard to imagine arriving to it's basically a third world country, and we don't know much about it in common culture around here. It's also, I just talk about the security, how it feels like to be there, the weather. Just how should one imagine arriving to Ethiopia?
Also, maybe before that, you can talk about like how did you get there? Like, because I guess it's not that easy that you just get your tickets and go there. You may need some vaccination. You may need visa or something like that.
Yeah, actually, it's not so complex. It was surprisingly easy, and you need a vaccination, but there is only one obligatory vaccination, and the visa is online, so it's easy. And if you get to the Vienna airport, you can have a direct flight to Addis Ababa, which is the capital city of Ethiopia, and it's only a 6 hour long route. So it's easy, but yeah, according to arriving to Ethiopia, if you ever plan to visit this country, I suggest you to organize everything, every moment of your stay, because actually, when we arrived, planned to have a transfer bus waiting for us, and when we realized that no one is waiting for us and there is no internet access on our mobile phone, it was a bit tricky experience. So we had to hunt for some Wi-Fi signals and so on. Actually, it's also very impressive that 1 megabyte of internet via a Hungarian provider cost almost 4,000 forints, 1 megabyte of internet. So we cannot really.
Did you find out the hard way or the easy way? Did you come home and get a bill for 200,000 forint?
No, fortunately, we could get through this first experiences. Luckily, but it taught us that yeah, everything should be organized, and it's also a little bit of experience that if you organize anything with the inhabitants, uh, you can count with the fact that they will nod for everything. They will say yes for everything, and they won't do anything. So it's also a cultural phenomenon, and it's not just for Ethiopia, as far as I know, but most of the African countries are something like this. So in terms of business, it's a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different culture than what we experience here in Europe. But if someone is working in a multinational environment in big corporates, then they experience this nature with other people. Yeah, we you have to get used to it. Like you agree in something and nothing happens. The opposite that I experience is, for example, with Chinese people, where you just basically say yes to something or nod your head, and then it's basically a contract right away. You don't even need anything signed, and you know that business done. So that's like the way opposite of the scale.
It's a very interesting thing that you mentioned, because most of the investments in Ethiopia are Chinese. So it's really interesting to see how they can cooperate in business.
I mean, what you said is like an interesting segue into like the investments are the Chinese is the Chinese investment for developing the country or helping Ethiopians or increasing their other parts than just agriculture, or what's the purpose of the Chinese investments? Because we as Europeans, we don't feel that we put so much money into third world developing countries, especially in Africa. Do you know that?
It's the Belt and Road Initiative. That's how they are taking over the world. That's how they are taking over Hungary too, actually, with the Serbia and Budapest railway. Yeah.
And the battery factories, right?
Oh yeah, it's like maybe another topic for another day, another podcast. Um, yeah, so you got there, you got the vaccination, you sorted out your transfer. Um, how was then the whole trip organized then going forward? And from the hotel, you had one place and you moved to different places. Have you visited multiple places in the country? Because I know that the southern and eastern part is different from a coffee perspective than the other parts of the country. So like how the whole thing was like organized after the fact?
We stayed in the first 3 or 4 days at Addis, which is the capital of Ethiopia, is almost in the center of the country. And they organized with the locals, with Andras' cousin, and one of the Andras' partner, which is they transported everywhere. And so, yeah, this is a very organized trip. And we saw the Unity Park, which is a essence of Ethiopia, where you can learn from her history and her agriculture and her wildlife. So yeah, it's a big park inside of the historical castle.
And Reni was smiling when you mentioned it's a very organized trip, and Reni was smiling. So I see something fishy was going on about the trip and the organization of it.
Yeah, actually, it was very well organized until the moment when we decided to go to Hambela for a washing station. And you should know that in Ethiopia there is a lack of petrol, and we couldn't find any source. And our leader decided to leave us on the road, actually. So he just got fed up with our program, which was very well organized, and decided to go home. And on that day, it was a disappointment for all of us because one of our friends, who was one of the members of our little group, got health issues on that day when we had the chance to visit a farm and the biggest washing and processing station. So she couldn't manage to see any coffee plants, actually. And coffee plants were plenty of them, but she couldn't manage to see any coffee plants with coffee on it. And this was our mission, to show her one coffee plant with the cherries. So our leader decided to go home because he just didn't want to continue the route. That was the basic reason for abandoning us on the road. And András just looked up one city on the map at the right altitude, and we tried to go there and find a coffee cherry for this member of our group. So it was a really interesting day. We couldn't manage to find any cherries, actually, so it wasn't so good for this girl. But we learned something about how well organized can be a trip in Ethiopia. But above this, Levi is right. So we had the chance to go to different regions. We went to Irgashef, we went to Guti, we went through Sidamo. So it was really interesting and enriching experiment and experience.
So you went to all of these regions, right? And you checked out a lot of washing stations as well. And have you had the chance to also try coffees that was, from those regions that you've already had experience from European roasteries and to compare it with local roasteries. So have you had any chance to visit, for instance, this traditional coffee ceremony or something like that, and try coffee there that you know from home, and compare it with how they consume it?
It was one of the greatest experience for me actually. That when we just went through the roads in the capital city or in any other villages, smaller cities, bigger cities, there were coffee ceremonies everywhere. So coffee is the part of the everyday life, really, so much in so much other ways than we can imagine from here. So of course, coffee is part of our everyday life too, but not in a traditional way. These people are living with coffee, and I felt that the coffee is part of their personality, and the coffee is part of their heritage. Really, it can be felt.
Is it coffee as a produce, or is it coffee as a drink? That part of their heritage. Like, do they actually enjoy it as a brewed beverage, or do they just enjoy making it and they are proud of it?
Yeah, as a drink, as a beverage. So you can just imagine that if you just go on the street, you can smell the roasting process of the coffee. Of course, it is completely inconsistent because it is made in a small plate on the open fire, and fully inconsistent.
So how do they roast? Do they just roast for themselves at home, or is there like a small, like a roaster in every village, or how does that work when you're not in Addis Ababa?
Just for themselves. So everyone is roasting for themselves, their family, their friends. So yeah, it's about the community, making a community around one person or a small amount of persons.
Yeah. And,
So,
and
yeah.
firstly, these work, if I can say that, that's for women. That is a woman work. They roasting and also making the coffee is firstly the woman's work.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I just couldn't imagine that, you go to a country where coffee is so much into the veins of the people, and like this is like a natural thing that you go home and, like, we, bake potato or bake something in the oven, they practically in small plates they just roast their own coffee, and that's, that fruit is practically just in their gardens. I mean, it's just so absurd from a European perspective.
I think Hungarians used to do it before socialism, just after the war, when it was a scarce supply of coffee. I remember my grandma explaining it to me that you could get sometimes green coffee, and they had these very old tumble roasters, like just like popcorn makers. You just roast it at home, but not these days.
But as you know, the whole nature is like, yeah, you can roast it, and I still have friends who roast like in popcorn makers those coffees at home because they just enjoy it. But like going to the, let's say, the end of your garden, and then in the end of your garden, basically a whole coffee, you know, the coffee fruit is starting practically, or the washing station is starting. Then you can just get it from there and roast it at home. It's like so absurd from a European perspective, at least for me.
A similar plan. This is which you can see they roasting like these pans in open fire, and they just shaking and trying to bake every beans on the fire.
And is any of the nuances left in that roasted coffee? because when we buy Ethiopian coffee, we always look out for the very fine nuances in the flavor. But I imagine that if you roast it in a pan over fire, then not much of it is left. So how do they know that the coffee they make is actually good and is valuable once they sell it? Or is it I'm on the wrong path and you can actually taste the fine nuances in flavor when you roast it like that as well?
It's surprisingly, we tasted very good and tasty coffees, even if it was a very inconsistent roast. But yeah, it was a surprisingly good coffees.
I've never tasted bad coffee in Ethiopia. So during our Ethiopian trip, each and every cups of coffee had its own high value, and it's more important because they have only grade 3, 4, 5 beans
Or
at
below.
at the households. So they are exporting the grade 1, grade 2 for the specialty market. So it was really interesting actually that um, from an inconsistent roasting, a lower grade um, coffee, and it's dark roasted, of course. We could taste a really full-bodied, rich in aromas kind of coffee, which didn't lack the acidity. I couldn't really imagine how it can be possibly formed during these roasting styles, but there was acidity in these cups of coffees. I suppose there are many chemical compounds which are not dissolving during this roasting style. Levi mentioned, and I think that he is right, that when it burnt, it even near the first crack. So somehow the energy um, intake of the beans let them formed or developed in a way that they can burn easily and they can be roasted inconsistently. But all in all, during the special cooking process, actually, it's a kind of cooking process in the jabana, which is the traditional coffee making tool. Somehow the acidity can be shown. So it's very interesting. I would be personally really curious about the chemical background of the Ethiopian coffee, the traditional Ethiopian coffee, because I couldn't really imagine how the flavors can be formed.
Maybe it's so fresh that the beans have a higher moisture level and that slows down the roasting. So it makes it more less the heat penetrate the bean slower. That's how you can. Do you know how fresh their coffee was that they use? Is it just off the bush, or do they also age it like specialty roasters in Europe?
They age it. Actually, it was also very interesting that we could see that in front of the houses there are little mats, and on these small mats there are the coffee cherries or the coffee beans, the green coffee,
They are also
which is
dried.
dried.
Oh, so they dry it themselves.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
They buy the cherries with the fruit on it, and then they process it themselves and then roast it themselves. Or they buy green beans that are already processed and dry.
Or they just have the cherries in the backyard and they just pick them and
Yeah, they just pick from the trees and just lay on the mat and let it dry.
So there are So basically, there is a cherry or coffee making culture in all level of society. So there is every person is making their, or many persons make their own coffee at home, but there is also larger producers, and those are completely separate. Because I imagine that they drink the same coffee as the big farms produce. But then this is not the case. It's the case that there are very small farmers, and everyone is making a small amount of cherry, and then they make some for themselves, and then that and the other part they go to a washing station where they all put their cherries together and then they mix it. It's not because in South America there are big producers with huge hectares of land, and they all just make coffee and then harvest it, and that's all clean cut. But I guess this is not the case in Africa then.
No, yeah, this is a big difference between Africa, especially in Ethiopia, and in South America, which is yeah, this is, Ethiopia is the origin of the coffee, and they grow everywhere, even from a rock, or from the concrete. They are growing um, like like everywhere, and they have, so every villager, yeah, in her backyards, growing the coffee trees, and they picking these, and if they picked some um, weight, or a big amount, they transport it to the washing or the processing station, where they buy that.
Bigger farm is a relative concept in Ethiopia. Of course, there are bigger farms, yeah, but but you cannot really mention them on the same page as, for example, in Colombia or in Panama. So we had the chance to visit a bigger farm, which was a plantation actually. So we could speak to a woman actually who led that farm. She was a very strong woman with 52 grandchildren, something like that, and all of her family followed us and cheered us, and it was a really unique experience, and we could talk to her, and it turned out that yes, it's her business and it's her life to run this business. So it was a kind of bigger farm, but still it was a garden. So a bigger garden.
If I imagine the whole thing looks like we as people in Europe or Hungary, we go into a garden and see an apple tree, and basically for them the apple tree is the coffee plantation, uh, quote unquote. And when we read like the Ethiopian market is in 80% of it is in small holders and small farmers. That's basically it. So the small holders and small farmers are like individuals or like small families who have like one or two practically bushes in their garden. They bring it to the washing station or bring it to the preparation station, and then that's what we get per se in Europe as Ethiopian coffee. And if you compare it to, like, we mentioned that this was a bigger one, but it's still like a garden. Like, how big of a garden? Like, in square meters, how big it could be, and how many people are working on there?
Maybe said he makes 3 tons coffee per year.
That's still like, if you compare it to like grape yards in Hungary, maybe that's something similar to that. Yes, a smaller one, like a family could own like 5 rows of grape, maybe, or something like that.
Can I ask where the quality comes from then in Ethiopian coffee? Because we know that in South American coffee, the farmer has a real feeling for their product. And they think about planting the tree in a shade, they think about the soil, they think about the fertilizer, they think about how to prune the tree, when it's best to harvest. But from what you say, in Ethiopia, it's basically like it's more chaotic, and everyone just does what they always do and what they're used to doing. But who is the person who then figures out how to make good tasting coffee that you can sell for a lot of money in the Western world? So is it is there tasters who go around and pick different cherries and just sample them and then they decide to mix it, or is it just that you pick up the nicer looking cherries and disregard the uglier ones, sell it to the locals, and then hope that it's gonna turn out nice? But then I imagine you mix a shitload of coffee from all the producers. How do you know that it's gonna end up good?
Physical um, evaluation is very important for the Ethiopian people. Even the average for the average Ethiopian people. I have an example for that. We went to Africa's greatest market on the streets. Um, it is called Mercato and it is located in Addis Ababa. And we saw an elderly lady who just sat on the pavement and sorted out the green coffee in front of her. So she just sorted out the nicer looking beans and the uglier looking beans. So even on the streets, in the mercato, we saw that the sorting process is a very, very valuable processing phase for the average person in Ethiopia, and in um, in greater um, sense, it's the same for the processing stations as well.
And each processing station has just one kind of coffee each year. So do they mix all the coffee and then they end up with one batch? This is the batch of this washing station for 2025, and that's it? Or do they have, like, how do they differentiate the different coffees? Because when we, as consumers, go online to buy specialty coffee, you can see a million different kinds. Is it all just different washing stations, or is there some other kind of differentiation?
Actually, yeah, they have the the specialty grade coffee is going through many sorting methods. Firstly, yeah, they realize the locals also. So if they pick only the well ripe cherries, they can get more money from that cherries, not only the if they just rip it off and go to the washing station. So yeah, this is the first one. The second one is at the processing stations, um, where we saw a washing machine which is also sorted the washed coffee beans, patties, where go through the G1, the G2, or maybe the G3 grade. Yeah, firstly from the size and which is floating or not floating.
If it floats, it's a witch. It needs to be burnt.
That's the next phase actually. So the sorting machine sorts according to size and according to weight as well. So that's the first step at the processing station, and it's very interesting for me as well. That it's just a mechanic thing which makes this phase. So without any human intervention. But at the first stage, even at the first stage, they are paying attention on sorting out the different kind of beans. And after they are doing this sorting phase, they send the beans to the washing bin and separate the floaters from the beans.
Do you may know why they need to separate the ones that floats? What is the problem with those beans?
Yeah, they are. Oh, what is the right word for them?
Density.
Yeah, their density is not good, but they can be overripe, or they can have some kind of defect that will have really bad taste experience in the cup. And of course, Ethiopia also realized that these kind of beans with the defects must be separated from the healthy beans. So this is the problem with the floaters. And the floaters are separated in each and every region of the coffee bat. So it's a basic phase of the washing process.
And what's the link between the Western people and the local washing station? Is there buyers going around saying that this is what I want? I want better coffee, and if it's better coffee, I'm gonna pay you more money for it. Do they, or is it the washing stations that constantly cup their coffees and then put a score on it, or how does that work? How does a coffee go from being washed and produced to a roastery in Europe? And who figures out the value of the coffee?
So yeah, this is also a big difference from South America, which is they also from the processing stations they buy also from a big or more Ethiopian companies, which is which has contacts with European roasteries or green coffee buyers. So actually, not the processing station sells for the European roasteries. They sell to this company, and then this company contact with the Europeans.
And then the company, the intermediary decides what the value of coffee is, or they are bidding on each batch, and that's how it's decided. The different intermediaries.
Actually, there are several kind of business models for this. So there are some green coffee producers which has a bidding system. For example, on the Cupping Club, 1 or 2 months ago, we had some Ethiopian coffees which came from a bidding system, and they reached really high value in US dollars. So this is one kind of model. And the other kind of model that we went through. So Andrej is a green coffee exporter or importer, as we can approach this question. And he visits the processing stations. He has some business deals with the managers of the processing stations. He will receive green coffees later when the drying phase is finished and the coffee can be sold. These are samples, and after receiving the samples, this green coffee importer can decide on whether he wants to buy it or not. This is another kind of model. This is for small businesses. And there is another kind of model. We actually visited the Kabir coffee company, which is the leader of the Ethiopian coffee. It's
The second largest company in whole Ethiopia.
Yeah, unbelievably professional company. So it was a really great experience, and it's a completely other kind of experience. So it's big business. This company can also buy green coffee for the different washing stations or processing stations. They have cuppers. They will sell the green coffee after the evaluation, the professional evaluation. So if you want to import green coffee from Ethiopia, Kebir or some kind of companies like this can be a good first step. because they have a pre-evaluation of the beans. And if they say that it's a G1 or a G2, then probably it will be that value. So there are many kind of models.
Yeah, and this Kabir has also sorting machines, very, very, very professional sorting machines. So yeah, after the processing station, they sorting. They after these processing, they also go through mechanical or optical sorting machines. So yeah, it actually, if they say it's a specialty grade, it's a specialty grade.
Yeah, and of course, these kind of big companies have a laboratory which is aligned with the Specialty Coffee Association's standards as well. So it's also some kind of guarantee for the quality.
Nice. And I know Andras has connections to Ethiopia, of course, but does he have business with like Southern American brands as well or coffees as well? So that's why you have the comparison, or that's just like, your general knowledge, like how Ethiopia was different in terms of importing and in terms of production to South America, or is it a personal experience?
For me, it's a personal experience. Anders has no other experience, only just Ethiopia. But I was last year in Panama, and I saw many, many famous farmers how they work in Panama, like Lamastus or Janson or something else. So yeah, I have a comparison which is different from Ethiopia than Panama. This is a completely the end of the lines. That's so Panama is the highest value of the coffee making and the most professional how they reach the coffee growing, and the exactly the end of this line, the Ethiopia, where they just growing the coffee sherry, coffee plants, and they just pick those and processing that.
Q. I mean, that's an interesting aspect because now, I mean, it puts Ethiopia into perspective that we really enjoy the coffee at home and like, oh, it's so floral, it's so tea-like, and practically what we see there is not like a large corporate, well-oiled business that we experience maybe from the Southern American portion or Panama. It's like a top of the line where everything is so fleshed out. These families own larger plantations, etc., and like it's an oiled chain of the coffee processing and exporting. Ethiopia is more like a startup where maybe there's one big conglomerate who, is exporting the thing, but all the other pieces, if you have personal connections, then it's less organized, more like a handshake type business. And it puts things into a different perspective, like how we think about the coffee that we are so enjoying it and how much work and nuances go into that compared to Southern America.
Reni, you told us that you've never had a bad coffee throughout your whole experience, and of course we are coffee nerds here, and I'd really like to know, like, what was their equipment? So yeah, it was roasted, they picked the berries, they washed it. How did they grind it? And you said that it was mostly brewed in the jebena, but like, how was the whole experience of consuming the coffee there?
If you have ever drank Turkish coffee um, in a specialty way, then you can have kind of image about the taste and mouthfeel experience of the traditional Ethiopian coffee. So that was it. There were two main categories of the cups that I've tasted. There were the full-bodied ones, and there were the more watery ones. But all in all, they resembled to the chesba. Actually, you asked about the grinding process, pestle and mortar. So this is the grinding process behind it. So if the roasting is inconsistent, then the grinding process is also inconsistent. It seems that negativity plus negativity adding up as a positivity. So much inconsistency comes to a consistent end. I don't know how.
And so we talked about the grind, we talked about the roasting. How was the water?
So tap water that you cannot drink anyways. It is used for the coffees. So yeah, this was the secret.
When we spoke about the chemistry of the coffee and full bodied and but still acidity, I bet they don't mix their own water from distilled water and like the lotus drips and it's like what comes from the tap and it still tastes great. And that's when I was, sometimes I'm just reflecting on things that, yeah, all these coffee YouTubers, influencers, yeah, you have to mix your own water and that's going to be the perfect thing. And these places, they just use the coffee water that we as Europeans can't even drink even after 5 years when when we are living there. I've heard about a person who lives in Rwanda, and after 5 years, she's still not brave enough to even wash her teeth with tap water.
Yeah, and that's completely right.
So we can safely say that there is no bad coffee, we just live at the wrong place, right?
Or they sell the bad ones to us. Actually, the ones that float are the good ones, and you're fucking us over.
But maybe I'm just too open, so I don't know. But I liked all of the coffees. Yeah.
We see you're in a special place right now. It looks like a place where you do something with coffee. It looks like a roastery. So I bet you're preparing for the next cupping club with some surprise for the people. So thank you for your time today, and we let you go and continue your work over there. And let's hope that the roast is at least as gonna be as good as the one in the small pan in Ethiopia. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.